In a quaint village nestled in the hills, there lived a man named Thomas. He was a kind-hearted and strong man, deeply in love with his wife, Emily. They had a small cottage with a blooming garden, and life was serene. But the clouds of war gathered, and Thomas, a soldier at heart, felt the call to serve his country. The day came when he had to leave, and he held Emily close. "I'll come back to you," he promised, his voice trembling with emotion. Emily nodded, tears in her eyes, and kissed him goodbye. The war was long and brutal. Thomas endured countless hardships, but the thought of returning to Emily kept him going. He fought valiantly, his mind filled with memories of their life together. Letters from Emily were his lifeline, though they grew fewer over time. He consoled himself with the thought that the war's strain affected everyone. Finally, after years of battle, the war ended. Thomas returned home, his heart pounding with anticipation. As he walked through the village, familiar faces greeted him, but their eyes held a mix of joy and something else, pity. When Thomas reached their cottage, he found it strangely silent. The garden, once vibrant, was overgrown with weeds. He pushed open the door, calling out for Emily. She appeared, but something was different. Her eyes, once full of warmth, were now clouded with guilt. "Thomas," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I have something to tell you." His heart sank as he listened to her story. While he was away, loneliness and fear had crept into her heart. She sought solace in the arms of another man, a traveler who had passed through the village. It was a fleeting affair, born out of despair, but it left a mark that couldn't be erased. Thomas felt a storm of emotions: betrayal, anger, sorrow. He turned away, unable to speak. For days he wandered the village, grappling with his feelings. Friends and neighbors offered support, but the wound was deep. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Thomas sat by the river, reflecting on everything. Emily approached him, her steps hesitant. She sat beside him, silent for a long time. "I never stopped loving you," she said finally, tears streaming down her face. "I made a terrible mistake. If you can find it in your heart to forgive me, I want to make things right." Thomas looked at her, seeing the pain and remorse in her eyes. He thought of their life before the war, the love they shared. He knew that forgiveness wouldn't be easy, but he also knew that holding on to anger would only prolong the pain. "I forgive you," he said quietly, his voice steady. "But it will take time for us to heal." Emily nodded, grateful for his words. They stood up and walked back to their cottage, side by side. The road ahead was uncertain, but they were determined to face it together. In the days that followed, they worked to rebuild their relationship, tending to their garden and their hearts. Thomas found solace in his work, and Emily devoted herself to earning back his trust. Slowly, the wounds began to heal. Years later, they sat on their porch, watching the sunset. Their love had been tested, but it had endured. They had learned that true strength lay not in never falling, but in rising each time they did. And in that quiet moment, they found peace.